It's not what you know, it's what you can prove.
You know how to cut to the core of me, Baxter. You're so wise. But like a miniature Buddha, covered in hair.
I want to become a guru so girls will like me. Then I will like myself.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules. Rule number 1. No touching of the hair or face.
Of course.
And that's it! Now let's do this!
This episode is brought to you by InVeedHemp.com. So let's talk CBD for a minute. It's been in the news a lot these days, and all the pros seem to be using it. But what is it exactly? Short for cannabidiol, CBD is a chemical compound from the cannabis plant. It's a naturally occurring substance that's used in products like oils and roll-ons to impart a feeling of relaxation and calm. Now, it doesn't get you stoned, but it has many organic rejuvenating effects. One of my favorite brands is this Inveed, which is a great company, and we've had the owner on the podcast, friend of the show. Their CBD products come in 3 varieties: Relief, Clarity, and Relax. Relief CBD products help relieve pain. The Clarity allows you to focus on those critical shots, and the Relax CBD products are those for the anxious golf moments. Now, I would not endorse any product that I didn't use personally, and I can tell you that I've been testing this stuff out for about 3 weeks now, and is a true game changer. I take a drop of Relax right before I go to bed. That has helped me get some of the best sleep that I've had in years, which has always been a problem for me. I also take a drop of the Clarity in the morning to get me started for the day, which gives me an alertness and a focus that I've never experienced. I also use the roll-on for some sore muscles and joints after a run or a workout. So this stuff is no joke. And right now I've got an incredible special offer for you, listeners. Go to InVeedHemp.com. That's ENVEED hemp.com, and use the promo code GURU20, GURU20, for a 20% discount for life. So once again, use the promo code GURU20 for a 20% discount for life. Go check it out. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the Golf Guru Show. I am your host, Jason Sutton, and I am the Guru. I am very excited as my guest is one of my favorite people and good friends in the business, the lovely and talented Miss Erika Larkin. A little bio on Erika. She is the Director of Instruction at the Club at Creighton Farms in Aldie, Virginia. Her accolades and certifications are very extensive, as she was the 2012 Mid-Atlantic Teacher of the Year. She is also ranked number 1 in Virginia by Golf Digest, and she is on the list of top 40 under 40 by Golf Digest since 2012. Her list of certifications include PGA Certified in Instruction, Certified Golf Fitness Instructor, Aimpoint Certified, Focus Band Certified, Lynn Blake Certified, and BioSwing Dynamics, just to name a few. She also played college golf for James Madison University, where she received a degree in business marketing. Her latest project is in her creative and very entertaining Instagram instructional videos that you have to check out, which she calls Golf Edutainment. You can follow her on the gram and Twitter at Erika Larkin PGA. That is ERIKA Larkin PGA. This was a really fun, wide-ranging, and informative conversation that I will not keep you from. We cover a variety of topics as usual on my podcast. So without further delay, I bring to you my good friend, Erika Larkin. Enjoy. All right, Erika, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jason. Golf Guru. I'm doing great.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
It's good to talk to you and good to see you. And I know you just got back from a big trip. How was Pebble Beach?
Oh my God, it was so amazing. It's been such a bucket list trip for me for so long, and I was always jealous hearing others go out west and play those golf courses, and I finally got out there with a group and my husband, and it's just been a wonderful dream come true this whole week. So the courses were amazing. Our weather was great. Going out to Monterey in August is kind of interesting because even though they talk about June gloom, it was still kind of August gloom out there. They get that morning mist, that marine layer that comes in. It's really cool. So I was wearing a down vest every morning when we teed off. So to come from 90-degree, 100-degree heat in Virginia to go out west and start dress in layers, I was a little disoriented at first, but I can't complain because it cleared up every day and we had gorgeous weather. It was very comfortable and cool. Our caddies were great. The golf was amazing. All the courses were in great shape. We played the trifecta, of course. So we did actually Del Monte Monday, and we played Spanish on Tuesday. Wednesday was Pebble. Thursday was Spyglass. And I finished it off with a little trip as we headed up north to Pasatiempo, which was a real treat.
I've heard that's so pure.
It is so pure, and I didn't really know the full history. So I was really appreciative to play there once I understood a little bit more the whole timeline on how everything went down out there. I don't know if you know the whole story, but I'd love to share for just a moment. So
absolutely, yeah.
So Mr. Morse developed Pebble Beach, back in the day, right? And we know Pebble Beach is 1919. So he had a lady, Marion Hollins, working for him to help in the development out there. And she was a real crusader in golf and women's golf. She played out east, I guess, on Long Island as an amateur player, was a great player. And so she goes out to work for Morse. And he assigns her to develop Cyprus. So she brings in Alistair Mackenzie to develop Cyprus, and then she goes off on her own and heads up and I guess buys property in Santa Cruz and hires him to do Pasatiempo. And on opening day in 1929, she brings in Bobby Jones to play golf out there.
Wow.
They tee it up. Bobby Jones meets Alistair Mackenzie, and guess what happens next? Augusta National.
Yeah, I was going to say they have a little idea.
So I think Augusta was born at Pasatiempo.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And a couple years later, in the early 1930s, guess who comes out to be the head teaching pro for 2 years?
Who's that?
Ernest Jones.
Oh, okay.
Who Marianne Hollins knew from Long Island because he was the teacher at her club on Long Island. So the whole thing is just an amazing web of these stories and networks of these amazing people back in that time frame when that whole West Coast was being developed. And of course, the Alistair Mackenzie, piece of it is awesome. Bobby Jones. And then for me, I'm, my background and who I grew up learning about and basing a lot of my teaching on is Ernest Jones. So to kind of walk in his footsteps was a really, really significant thing for me. So I thought that was just a great way to end the trip.
That is so cool. And what a great way to start this conversation, because we're obviously going to get to Mr. Jones and his influence on you and your book. But I want to start a little earlier. Okay. Let's take everybody back, because I think your story is so interesting. And I want to know about your parents. All right. I want to know about your dad and your mom and growing up in Queens, and how that sort of started, your golf career. Because I think obviously that's not the typical teaching pro or even golf professional story is growing up in a place that's, difficult to even find a golf course. So can you elaborate a little bit on your parents?
Of course,
and how they
I would love to. Thank you. Yeah. So I was an only child, and I grew up in Queens, New York, and my parents were not golfers, but they were fairly adventurous, and they always wanted me to try new things, and they themselves liked to try new things. And just so happened we lived a few subway stops away from Flushing Meadow Park, and we liked to play tennis. And so we would go over there to use the public courts, and my mom played in a league at the U.S. Tennis Center, which hosts the U.S. Open every year, and I did a couple camps. And so when you come off the train station, you make a right to go to the USTA Center, and you make a left to go to pitch and putt. And we always saw it, and so they decided that it'd be kind of cool and fun to try pitch and putt one of these days. It didn't look too hard. So we went and rented some clubs, and I was about 8. and we tried to play golf and didn't know what we were doing. And just kind of baptism by fire. We had a great time and had a little ice cream treat at the end. And I think golf for us as a family was born. And so we decided to continue on in our adventure, and we bought clubs of our own. My mom and I shared some clubs for a while. We ended up with a full set and played some golf at Owley Pond driving range, where we learned to hit the ball a little better and really just self-taught. I mean, it became a thing where on the weekends it was just fun to do and go out and try the course and see if we could get better. And every hole there's like 30, 40 yards. So for an 8-year-old, it wasn't too daunting of a place to learn, and I developed a pretty good short game. So it was actually the perfect starting ground to develop a love for the game, because it was manageable, it was bite-sized, we could play in under 2 hours, and it was a subway stop away. So that was really the start of it. We just asked questions, and we started watching golf on TV, and we bought magazines, and my dad ordered VHS tapes, and we had a little camcorder at the time, and we filmed ourselves swinging in our little apartment and tried to figure out what we could do to be better. And I remember watching a Ken Venturi video series at the time and a few others, and I would just flip through the pages of the golf magazine issues that we would get, including at the time they had the women's golf magazine, and started to follow some of the players. So my favorite female player was Michelle McGann, because I liked her style at the time.
With the hats.
And I had a poster of her in my room, and I was just a golf nerd right from the start. And so I did a lot of other activities too, but golf started to take over when I was probably about 13, 14. And I was signed up to play in some junior golf events in our city area, because we had found out about these different clinics going on at the time, and the PGA in that section was growing and active and trying to do different programs to get kids involved, and so I was encouraged to join some of the local Met Tour events, and through that we met a guy named Frank Darby who kind of took me under his wing, and I can tell you more about Frank, but he was very influential in my development then from there as a player in my later teenage years, and then getting me off to college. And a few more words about my parents before I move on, because that's sort of the next part of the story. But
yeah, because your dad was a chef, right? So talk a little bit about that. I found that interesting in sort of how he got here from Venezuela, and like dig into that a little bit before we get to the rest of your mentors.
So my dad was Russian, born in Venezuela, because his parents immigrated there after the war. They had no choice. They couldn't go back to Russia. So there was a community of Russians in Caracas. So, and when he was about 13, his parents were sponsored to come to the U.S. by friends that had already made it here. And they got on a boat and they came to the U.S. when he was 13. They landed in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And so he learned the language, and they made a living and a home for themselves in that area. And fast forward some years later, he met my mom, who grew up in that area. And so he became a chef and moved to New York City, worked in some super high-end corporations and private for some wealthy families and things. So they settled in the city. He worked in Midtown for Warner Brothers for many, many years, right around when I was born. And so we did that grind Monday to Friday, and then a lot of times on the weekends we'd head up to Connecticut to visit my grandmother and relatives that were all still in that Bridgeport, Milford, New Haven area. So we kind of had the best of both worlds. I got to be a city kid during the week, and on the weekends I was able to run around in my grandma's backyard. And so as time went on and we got more into golf, we had the ability to find courses up in that area too, which was really nice. That definitely helped the process, because as I was mentioning, we certainly played our share of city golf. I mean, I was a 6-hour round was the norm, and getting paired up with my mom, who was, again, just became a golfer as I became a golfer. She was so brave to take me, the two of us by ourselves without my dad even being around, and go just sign up at the local city course and get paired up with two random people and go play 9 or 18 holes. So she was very, very brave to do that with a young kid, and neither one of us, again, were very experienced players. So I give a lot of credit to her running me around town, playing golf with me, waiting for me. As you know how that goes. You've got kids, and I know in your probably growing up story, you had parents that had to wait for you for hours and hours playing while you played a round of golf somewhere that was 2-3 hours away. So I was very lucky to have such a supportive set of parents. And again, the fact that my mom loved the game too really, really helped enable me to get out and play. Because I don't think if it was for her and her ability to get me to golf courses and practice and rounds and play and all that support, and if she didn't like the sport, I don't think I would have ended up here. So I definitely owe a lot to the both of them for being so adventurous and giving me a lot of opportunity and taking me along. And being an only child, I just went along for the ride, and it was great. It was the three of us. And so my dad continued to work in the city, and we did that whole sort of, Monday to Friday New York thing. And then on the weekends, we'd go up to Connecticut and we'd find courses up there, including other executive courses where we knew enough to start on the small ones and then work our way to whatever public golf courses that we could have access to that were a little nicer up there. So that was my run, and I just loved being able to play junior golf in Long Island in the summers, where I could actually play on some really nice courses where they were having tournaments. And as I got to a point where I was old enough to start working, of course, I signed up to work at a golf course as soon as I could to get access to a nice facility to play and practice. So that's how it all started. And at these golf tournaments in New York and Long Island, there were only a handful of girls playing, so it wasn't a large field ever. And it wasn't until I really got up into more of the regional tournaments up in New York State and then played in some national stuff that I'd qualified for did I really understand where I stood in relation to my peers, because it probably was a little different time and there weren't as many girls playing. And of course, in the city, golf has developed a lot over the years, but just being up north and where junior golf was in the mid-90s, early 90s was a lot different than where it is now. So it was a small field, and it was kind of a cool, unique thing to do. None of my friends played. I didn't know anybody that played other than the girls I'd met that happened to be out there. So I just loved golf. I always loved it, and I always loved, like I said, being a golf nerd.
Our stories are definitely similar in that way. I grew up in West Virginia, as you know, and none of my friends played. Yeah. And when you're playing sort of around your hometown or club, you think you're pretty good until you start traveling, like you said, outside the city or, to other big tournaments, and you figure out, oh, wow, I got a little bit of work to do. Yeah. But you did pretty good. I mean, it sounds like you didn't have a ton of help until you were about 14 or 15, right?
Yeah.
As far as instruction goes.
Frank Darby came in the picture, and honestly, up to that point, I had only ever had one series of lessons, like 6 lessons from a guy at a city course, and we didn't even have a driving range there. There was some little tee box behind a fence where you could kind of hit down onto whatever the third fairway was or something. Oh my gosh. It was so makeshift, and it was not even a fairway lie. It was all roughed up, and he stood there, and we pounded a few balls and went over and chipped and putted, and I don't know, I got a basic set of lessons from him, and then we just self-taught, honestly, until I probably was about 14, 15 at where I met Frank. And Frank Darby said, come out, spend some time with me. I'll, work with you on your swing a little bit and kind of help guide you to whatever the next steps are in your game. And he was more of a mentor than a swing coach, really. He did give me some ideas on some things to work on, but he just pointed me in different directions, like, hey, you really need to read these few books. How'd that tournament go? He would always follow up with me about my playing schedule. He'd write me nice letters after our lesson, recapping some things that we had talked about. He was just really good about telling me to journal what I was working on. And
that's great.
He would just always follow up. He was just... The guy's just, full of love, right? And just honestly cared about whoever he was trying to work with and mentor. And I guess the best part of the story is the day we met, I'm playing golf at Southampton Country Club, way out on Long Island, right? I'm in Queens, and we had made it a special trip all the way out there, and I'm plugging along, and it was 1,000,000 degrees outside, and I'm carrying my little bag, and I had a towel draped from the bag. It was Casino Park Casino Park Golf Club, which is the little local course in Queens, nothing special. And he was driving around marshalling or something, and he stops me. He goes, Casino Park? What's that all about? I said, that's where I play. He goes, well, that's where I grew up playing. And so that started, that started the relationship, because he saw the towel hanging from my bag, and we connected over the fact that, you know, he grew up there too, and he obviously realized that my resources were a little limited, and so he reached out and invited me to come practice with him. So he had a kind of a cluster of kids that he was doing this for and with, and I think the idea, in all honesty, was to just help, and hopefully, you know, a few of us would make it to college and, you know, maybe make something of ourselves. And it was a good experience for him to guide us through the college process, because he ended up doing a lot more of that, including he himself becoming a college golf coach at St. John's University.
Okay. Right?
And so are you aware of some of the players that came out of that program?
Remind me.
Who is the quirky guy from Vermont that has the crazy routine? Really, really, really quirky. Why am I blanking? Oh my gosh, on his name. Oh, that's terrible.
Talking about an order? We're talking about
his aunt is Patty Sheehan.
Oh. Keegan Bradley?
Yes.
What are you talking about? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
His aunt, Keegan Bradley.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, does quirky make sense now that
Yeah,
for
sure.
I'm talking about?
I was thinking way back. I didn't know you were talking like
now. No,
yeah.
Keegan played for Frank, and Andrew Swoboda played for Frank. He's been on and off the mini tours and stuff like that over the years. Played in some tour events. Do you remember any of those like early lessons? I mean, I know it's hard to look back. I remember some of my earliest lessons and sort of little phrases or anything that are life lessons that he gave you that stuck with you. So it all kind of came back to swing the club head for him. We talked a lot about Ernest Jones, and that's kind of where that started. He really wanted me to read those books, and
one of the best books I think in old instruction ever.
I won't forget. Probably at the beginning of every lesson, he made me do swings from 9 to 3, toe up to toe up, feel the weight of the club. And then he made me grip the club often with what he called a claw grip. So my bottom hand, my right hand, he would take my 2 fingers and kind of hook them around the club so I couldn't grip the club with my right hand normally. And that would take the pressure out of my right hand, so I'd have to really swing and feel that I was just swinging my arms and not grabbing onto the club and not manipulating it. So that was sort of the basis for the feel, and we talked a lot about a lot of kinesthetic cues for me, and less technical. And so if I could do that, that seemed to always help. So Frank got me my first golf job, which was at Wheatley Hills Golf Club in East Williston, and I worked for a guy named Mike Gilmore, who's a very well-known club pro.
After
this is going, I went, I go off to college. He helped me through the college process. We knew nothing about recruiting and all that, so I ended up sending out. He helped me. We filmed a little video of my swing and everything. We sent that out to coaches, and he got sent some notes on my behalf to vouch for my ability and stuff, and ended up at James Madison University, which was just a really good fit for me. I had a few options, but that was the best fit between my playing ability and partial scholarship and not too far from home and far enough from home.
Sure.
And all of that combined, and I loved it there, and it was great. And we had a couple coaching changes through the years I was there, and I loved the experience of JMU. I loved being a college player. I liked playing D1. The program was sort of in an interesting point in time, in that we were D1, but we weren't in a really great conference. So things have grown a ton since I've left the school, and it's a really well-established program now. But it was sort of in its Thank you. Yeah, it was sort of in its infancy in terms of women's golf when I was really playing there. But I didn't get swing coaching in college. I still was on my own. Primarily, I was still searching. Yeah. I thought I would peak in college, and it didn't really happen. I thought I would get more full-time help and really reach maybe the next level, whatever that was going to be, and it wasn't happening. So as I was saying, as I worked between summers and college, I ended up working for Mike Gilmore, who was at Wheatley Hills, and then after years later, you may know of him. He was at Piping Rock, and now he's at Winged Foot. So he's made his way around the Met section very nicely, and he made it to a few PGA championships as well. He played, I want to say, at Medina years and years ago. He qualified nationally for that as a club pro, and so Mike was influential in my development as a player, and probably you could say really got me into the mindset of what it would be like to really start to do some swing analysis, like actual swing analysis. So when he had spare time, he would bring me down to the little lesson tee and help me with my golf game. And he was the first guy that really, honestly, made me understand better how to shape the ball. I didn't really understand ball flight and swing laws, ball flight laws. I really didn't.
Sure.
That wasn't the stuff I was reading. I was reading Swing the Club Head and Bob Rotella and
Golf Digest,
I wasn't
right?
Golf Digest.
Yeah.
So I first truly had a better appreciation for what made the ball do what when I worked for him and learned from him. So he made me do some different drills to help shape the ball, and I got it. And then he had a video camera, and he had one of the first original NEAT systems.
Okay.
The NEAT system was the first swing analysis on the back computer in the office. You could draw lines on the video, and he had a whole bank of professional players' swings where you could do side by side. And I spent any free time I had, I spent on that computer, bringing up my swings, watching swings, comparing swings, drawing lines. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just thought it was the coolest thing. And I was just totally addicted to the NEAT system.
Yeah.
And so I think, I knew instinctively that I just really enjoyed doing that. And they threw me into some junior camps and helped coach, and I messed around with the fitting carts. They had a Mizuno fitting cart. It was the first time I ever got my hands on a fitting cart, and I started trying to understand what that was all about. So it was sort of like this self-discovery, self-experimentation process for me it was these little nuggets, and it was just connecting the dots the whole way. Nobody ever said, this is truly how you do it. It was just like these little clues, and I just kept picking up pieces along the way to get to the point where I could help myself. And then when I finally did formally get into teaching, I pulled from all these experiences in my understanding of what the golf swing was all about. So
yeah, it's amazing. Looking back, I mean, I think all high performers sort of share those traits of just banking those little things or those little phrases or things that you saw back in the day, and you're like, oh wow, I kind of remember that, and it comes up, and you're like, you don't even remember, but you use them now in your lessons. I know I do. It's like so many things that, if you're passionate about it, you sort of gather it, and you're observing, and you don't really think about it at the time, but then you're like, okay, yeah, there was a mission on where I was going, and then how this could be useful in the future.
Yeah, for sure.
So it sounds like your
amazing.
passion was sort of stimulated for teaching right there.
Definitely. I can definitely connect the dots back to that point. And, when I think about the next steps in my journey, which after I graduated from college and I knew I wanted to be in golf, but didn't know exactly how, I ended up working at some courses, but more in a management and marketing and sales role. And someone at the course said to me, do some teaching, make some extra money.
Steve Loescher, is that the guy's name?
Steve Loescher, yeah. So Steve Loescher, who's again been a great friend and mentor since those early years after I graduated, roped me into doing some teaching because he needed help. He was trying to run a lot of beginner programs out of a facility that was high volume, and he needed extra bodies to teach. And you know enough, Erika. You played D1 golf. You could teach beginners. And I said, yeah, I could do that. And I was, young college student, needed extra money, so I signed up for a couple classes a week. And before I knew it, I was spending my evenings making flyers and handouts of my notes for class. Like I was putting together cheat sheets for my students of all these things I was teaching them, and I was printing out handouts of pictures of how to chip the ball and stuff that we had done in class. I was totally overachieving for
Yeah.
what I was really signed up to do. All he wanted me to do was stand there for an hour and teach the basics, and I was, I was like into it. So he said, take your PAT, and it doesn't hurt to try, take the test, and maybe do your PGA stuff on the side while you're working. And I went ahead and prepped up for my PAT and passed it. And
How many tries?
first try.
Yeah, that's awesome.
First try.
Respect.
Yeah, so I did that and got into green grass after that because I was really working at mostly public golf courses for this management company at the time, American Golf. And so I left that to become a PGA apprentice at a private country club in the Northern Virginia area, which is where I was working. And that was the beginning of the PGA journey for me. So it took me a few years, but I got my membership, and that was really the beginning of my formal teaching career. And at which point, I got a ton of hands-on experience with all kinds of private lessons, running more junior programs, other group classes, ladies golf, and all the stuff that comes along with being a PGA member and getting your certification. So from there, kind of the rest is history, because similar to your journey, I signed up for every seminar under the sun and every certification, and read every other book, and did the PGA coursework, and watched other teachers teach, and then revisited the library that I had collected over the years and stuff that I read to really come full circle back to my roots. And the more I learned, the more I was always trying to boil down what was my message to my students at the core of what I was teaching. What was my philosophy? I can't tell you how many times I sat in front of a piece of paper over the years and tried to write down what I thought my philosophy was, and it just kept evolving.
Yeah, it's a difficult task sometimes, and that's great. I mean, it's a great exercise for any young coach out there, I think, is sit down and figure out what you believe in, right?
What do you believe? Yeah. And I think the better you get your mind around that and you can clearly communicate that, it really helps organize your thoughts when you're on the lesson tee in front of somebody, because you can be more consistent with the product you're delivering. And that doesn't mean that you're giving a cookie cutter lesson. It's just that the way you're communicating and the way you're organizing how you take somebody and make them better. It just helps to, I think, give more confidence in what you're saying to the student, make them a better believer in what you believe, and then you can funnel in more pieces of the puzzle into your philosophy.
Right.
At some level now, when I see things out there, I always consider everything and how does that match or not match what it is that I'm teaching and why. I never disregard anything, but some things I keep, some things I'll ponder on for a while and come back to, but it's always, what makes sense to me and how I view the golf swing and what I've learned, what speaks to my my message, what builds my message to my student, and how else can I add tools to my toolbox to just make my philosophy and my message stronger.
Then the True Swing book was born.
Yeah. I always wanted to write a book because I've just always loved golf books. And I felt like if I did enough teaching and was confident in how I thought about the golf swing, that I could come up with my own version of a golf book. And, I didn't want to force it, but I got to a point where I kept revisiting, like I said, my philosophy. And I think I just finally got to a point where I was really happy with where it was and had a framework for how I got there, and had enough case studies and enough, experience where I really felt like I could pull together a system for what I was teaching. And when I say system, it's just a collection of my favorite stuff, ideas, drills, and really trying to my blend of connecting all the parts of my journey, which is the old stuff, the new stuff, and how I try to communicate that to students to make them understand the golf swing in the way that I see it.
Yeah, I remember when you first started writing it, because I was starting to write my book, and one of us finished it and one of us didn't.
No.
So,
Come on.
but it's been an interesting topic that comes up with me and a lot of my friends that, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Is, to follow through is such an achievement because the information is coming so fast. And what I kept finding myself is I would go back and read what I had written, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't like that. Or, I was probably diving into the editing process too much, thinking, oh, I don't feel that way anymore. Things are changing. It's like, how did you sort of stick with what you believed and just, keep persevering?
Because I just still believe it. I think that, I'm continuing to add to it. How about that? How about I almost at this point, now it's been 2.5 years since I published, and I almost wish I could add more. Not change anything, but add more. Yeah, maybe do another edition. Like there's more drills that I keep thinking of, or stuff that I didn't put in the book that I wish I did now. So maybe there's a volume 2, or there's a little extra addition to it, or a new edition, like you said, where I update it and I add more in. I didn't include short game, and there's some really good short game stuff I'd love to do some work on in the future. So there's more, and it's,
there's always more.
There's always more.
Yeah.
And I it's great because I'll give an example. So this fall, I'm actually hosting a coach from France to come over for a week and teach with me, and we're going to do a bunch of events together in the end of September. And it was because of my book. You want to give him a shout? I am. Yeah, I'll tell you who this is. Okay. So, I obviously had my book out, and I always continue to do research on different things that when I catch something that's like similar to my philosophy, I'll dig in a little bit more. And this guy just struck a chord with me with what he was saying and how he was doing his videos. So his name is Stéphane Bachos, and he, his website is Flow Motion.
There you go.
And so I probably don't need to even say more than just what that probably, speaks for itself, just the name, right? Mm-hmm. So he talks a lot about swing the weight of the club head, and there is a lot of Ernest Jones in there as well. And he had done some research with some guys over in Europe about swinging as you walk and how everything is natural and unleashing your innate unconscious swing. And it was just the language and what he was saying and how he was saying was just so parallel to everything that I say and write. And I said, I got to reach out to this guy. And we've connected over the last year or so. And because of the internet, because of social, because, I'm on this journey, and I found somebody that across the world is basically teaching just about the same thing. Now there's new ideas. So basically there's collaboration happening, and getting people together that are like-minded only makes your message stronger and helps continue the journey. So for me, getting together with him remotely and then in person this fall is going to be great, because the things he's doing and the way he's doing them are only more ideas that I would like to do with my students, stuff that I hadn't thought about doing in that way, drills I'm not currently doing that I want to use, and hopefully we can share and steal from each other in a way that it just makes both of us help more people. So
yeah, that's been my big sort of thing the last few years, is instead of doing the big, guru workshops, is just having collaborations with other coaches. Mm-hmm. James Ridyard and John and those guys come through, and it's a little more intimate, and I think we get more out of it too as coaches, because it's selfishly, it's for us and to share with our students and other teachers. So I think that's so cool that you're doing that.
Thanks. Yeah. And there's going to be more, I'm sure, but that network will open up a whole nother world.
That's right.
That is number one in Europe, which I don't have a huge, market in. I mean, there's obviously global influence through social, but this is there's a whole nother world out there, right? And for him over here. And so I think that just the network of coaches that he certifies in what he does, and there's a few dozen people over there or more that are doing flow motion, it'd be cool to see that spread over here. And maybe there's, again, a blend of what we're doing together. I remember, even I'll give you an example, Mike Adams and E.A. Tischler. I remember hearing their story about how they were on opposite sides of the country, and it took several other colleagues to say to both of them, you guys need to get together. You're speaking the same language. And they finally got together, and now we have bioswing dynamics with those guys, right? So that's like what this feels like. It's feels like there's a connection of information and ideas, and we're on the same page, and it can only get better if we get together and try to promote the concepts in a way that it just is even better, even bigger. So
for sure. So talk about some of your other influence or I guess mentors that helped you develop your philosophy in the book, but just your philosophy or framework in general. Like, so who are some of the other people that have had a great impact on your teaching?
Again, from just the research that I did in the books that I've read, the stuff I quote in the book is a George Knudsen,
Canadian,
and then Canadian, and all about natural swing as well. And I really connected with the stuff he wrote. Unfortunately, I never had a chance to meet him or work with him, and I had a really old, wonderful copy of that book that I just ripped apart and highlighted all over the place. It's an awesome book. And then Bob Toski, he had a lot of great nuggets, and Jim Flick, so
Flick on Golf is a great book. You have that one?
I do.
Yeah, it's hard to find.
I do. Manuel de la Torre was a Ernest Jones guy, and I really enjoyed his writings and teachings. Again, I didn't unfortunately ever really go meet any of these people because they're so much older or deceased.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I know.
But it doesn't matter. I've looked at videos online. I've watched stuff that's been posted, and I've done my homework on all these guys that I say have influences on me the best that I can. And I always ask stories. Even Mike Malaska is teaching some really cool stuff right now, and has always has. But the way he's framing a lot of what he's doing currently overlaps with some of my teaching as well. I really connect with what he teaches, and so I follow him. And have chatted with him over the years a little bit. And, of course, his direct influences were...
Yeah, Mr. Nicholas, Flick,
Nick, Flick, And so Toski, he's got Toski stories. He's got Dave's he's got love stories. I mean, all those guys were unbelievable. And so that's that old school piece that I love so much. And the new school stuff is a blend. I mean, I know Homer Kelly's not new school, but in terms of being more the mechanical side of things...
Sure.
I learned from Lynn Blake, who, of course, is super big into Golf Machine, and I tried to really understand that side of it. Now, can I say that's a big influence? Well, yes and no, because I don't teach Golf Machine, but it's still there way in the back of in my brain, and sometimes those things come in handy, or understanding the mechanical influences of how the body works and how the swing works. But probably more recent than that is the time that I, had spent with Michael Jacobs and understanding his research and how he, explains forces and torques and all of the stuff that he's putting out over these last, 4 or 5 years is so helpful in really getting a picture in your brain of how the club is moving and why, what the body's influence on it is and why. And so understanding the role of that as you watch somebody move, I can see the golf swing through these different lenses. And so how I choose and what I choose to communicate to a student standing in front of me may change depending on that student and what they want and how they want it best explained to them and the questions they're asking. And if it's a new student or a more experienced player, it all changes from lesson to lesson. So I don't always talk true swing, but I love talking true swing when somebody comes to me and has read my book and wants that.
Sure.
And many times I'll be in the middle of a lesson and say, hey, so we're working, at the top of your swing, and have you read my book? Oh, no, you haven't. So I call this part of the swing the tipping point and blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, you're really... you're missing a part of your swing. You have no fall in your swing, and you go right into your pivot. Well, what does that mean? Oh, so when they start to ask questions, or if I tell them, hey, you haven't read my book, pick up a copy, or here, please take a copy with you because, this is going to be your lesson, and this is what we're working on. But just getting the whole backstory will really help give you a better understanding of where I'm coming from. And I think you'll find that these few drills that are listed in there is what we worked on today. And here's, you might want to go back and revisit that after our lesson. So it's nice to have that resource of information to give your student or to refer them to. And when I work with somebody remotely, like sometimes a random online lesson, somebody has read the book, or if they haven't, they get a better feel for me and what I'm talking about when I tell them to work on something. So people begin to speak your language. You want your students to speak your language. And so whatever that language is, if it's true swing and the way I talk about the golf swing, or if it's somebody else's language, because that's what the golfer knows. Maybe there's a brief translation like, hey, you're really familiar with stack and tilt. Well, this is how what I'm telling you fits into that, So
Sure.
knowing all the different ways people teach the golf swing. Hey, I just, I was trying to do that A swing thing, but I'm not really sure, how it's not been working for me, or it has been working for me. Okay, well, so I know what you're talking about because, I read the book too, and this is how what I'm teaching you fits into that or doesn't, or why it's not working for you. So being more educated on what everybody's doing in the industry just makes you more of an expert when the person's standing in front of you, and then believing in what you believe in. So you sell the person on what they need to change and why they need to change it, because that's how you're seeing it through your eyes. They're coming to you for a lesson to get your opinion on what they need to change because they want your opinion as the teacher. So if you want my opinion, this is how I'm viewing your golf swing for these reasons. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. You got to be confident in that delivery, right? I mean, that's why I love you so much, because you're such a strong personality. It sounds like you got that from your mother. Would you say that?
Probably.
Yeah,
probably. They both are, but they probably. I've been blessed. Yeah, learned a lot of good lessons. I have two great parents, so. Yeah.
But it almost becomes your manual, right? I mean, I think that's a great point, and that's something that I preach to all the young coaches out there, is to go learn everybody, whether you believe in it or you agree with it or not, is learn what everybody else is teaching, because you're going to get that random student that comes through your lesson tee and says, hey, I've worked for this particular teacher, and you better know where they came from, because typically you're going to have a communication gap anyways.
Right.
With that student that doesn't quite, get it or didn't get what that other coach was telling you, and you can sort of guide them, into a better place.
Yeah, for sure. It's always about customizing, the golf swing to every person that's in front of you. And so I guess that's why I'm confident in what I'm saying, because I feel like my framework for golf swing is open-ended enough that it can fit anybody. And you can tweak it to fit anybody. It's just overall concepts of that I think we can all agree on about how important your swing sequence is and the way the club should move in response to the body. And you can argue all day long about feels.
Yes.
I have a certain set of feels that I've experienced and I think connect with most people, but does it work for every single person? There's no one-size-fits-all approach, so you have to find what works for the person that's in front of you. Yeah. And I may try in one lesson 4, 5, 10 different ways of communicating the same exact thing until it clicks with that person. It's the same message, it's the same diagnosis, it's just how you're trying to make the fix.
So would
you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that kind of leads me to the next question is, do you ever get somebody that maybe has read your book or thinks that you just teach swing the club head and maybe don't understand like what the body or the sequence in the swing, like the tail wags the dog obviously is how I would describe that, which I think is a fantastic way to teach probably 80% of our clients, the average club players.
Right.
But do you find that maybe a better player might think, oh, wait, she can't teach me how to pivot and how to sequence, body first? Has that ever come across your lesson tee or somebody's had that thought about you?
Yeah, I well, and that's where I blend that old with new, because I understand kinematic sequence, and I'm not going to, and I'm not going to deny
as anybody. It's like you got to make sure that people don't think that you're just that.
So no, I think that they didn't have 3D sensors, and they were not able to get biofeedback in 1935 when these guys wrote books. So
Yeah.
The kinematic sequence was always there. It's what they were feeling and how they saw it that was different, and it wasn't wrong. So I think that when I talk to a good player and I know that their body's got to unwind in a certain way, but guess what? You're spinning out and the club is getting left behind you, and so maybe you need to feel that your arms start down a little bit more first. Maybe you're not feeling the weight of the club head. You're pulling so hard, you're out of sync with yourself. You're in your own way, or whatever so it always can come back to swing the club head because it's a feel. And I think that the body gets the arms swinging. The club never truly leads the way, but sometimes it feels like it does.
Right, exactly.
So it depends on the golfer. You have handle draggers and you have guys that flip, and so that they should all do a better job of swinging the weight of the club head. It's just what other cues are going to match up for that person. So I love so many of the messages from the old school stuff, and of course that's the main one that we can all know, but the new stuff and the research, and we can't deny what good players do and how they move their body and what moves first, second, and third, and pressure mapping and all these things that we have tools to measure. We can't deny that that's what's really happening in the golf swing, but you have to take what they're doing, find where the gaps are, what needs to improve, where is the timing off, and then how do you create a feel to get them to do it. That's the puzzle we're solving in every single golf lesson, whether they're a scratch golfer or they shoot 105 and they can't time it up. It all comes down to timing. And the less you're in your own way and the less you're manipulating, the more your timing improves, regardless of your skill level. The speed at which it's happening might be different.
Right.
The force that's being applied might be a little bit different. The control is obviously different, but
timing is definitely a key word there.
It's all about timing.
It's the timing and the sequences.
Yeah, it's all about timing, tempo, and balance, and that's so much of what helps a good player, and it's so much of what helps a bad player.
Yeah, and good players kind of take it for granted because they've sort of built that skill a lot of times, but they need to be reminded of that feel of whatever that needs to happen. So what are some of your? I know you've got some great drills in your book, but what are some of the tools or tactics or even sort of the language that you find yourself using mostly during the day to get people to have that swing the club head feel, or a relaxed arms and hands, or anything that you can kind of share with the listeners?
Yeah, so I often get guys flipping the club around with the club head side in their hands, and then swinging that weightless shaft, and then flipping the club back around, and all of a sudden they feel the weight of the club head. So that's the sort of 101 experience that most people just have no awareness of the object in their hands, how it should feel. They are too busy gripping it hard and swinging fast, and they just don't experience the swinging sensation. So that's one. And then continuous swinging. So, guys, girls too, stand over the ball, they freeze, they take a slow backswing, and they try to hammer it down from the top fast. So without any flow, usually bad things happen. And so I like just literally getting people swinging back and forth continuously without stopping or restarting their swing. So back to the top, all the way to the finish, and then right back to the backswing. And the first time somebody does that, when I ask them to continuous swing, they usually finish their follow through, bring the club right back to set up, and then they start again. I said, no, back and forth.
Yeah.
Don't stop. Just keep swinging. What do you mean keep swinging? Keep swinging. Brush the ground both ways. Figure out where you are in space. And all of a sudden their balance improves, their footwork improves, their rhythm improves, their arms relax, their shape of their swing is more, neutral on plane. They stop looping it around if that's what they were doing. And it's like they just look like a golfer all of a sudden, or they just look smoother, whatever the case may be, whatever level they are. And so that alone usually gives people a feel for what we're talking about. I have a heavy rope. I ask people to swing back and forth, and so they get sort of that feel and timing of letting their arms be sort of an extension of that rope. That's a big one. And then I do a lot of air swinging, particularly for guys that get steep or pretty loopy. So we swing at a horizontal plane, and then we lower down in our posture.
Like a baseball swing type of deal?
Baseball swing.
Yeah, I like that.
Kind of swing like tabletop, almost swing across a tabletop idea, and then get the arms and the club and the wrists and everything all kind of folding and releasing around the body in a way that, the body's turning and pivoting and there's footwork happening, but when they see everything happening on that flat plane, they kind of get a better sense of how the arms and the body are connected a little bit more. So that I'm a big fan of, and certainly helps people stop being so loopy. And they kind of they have that aha moment of like, oh, so I just need to bend over the ball. Yeah, just need to bend over the ball and keep swinging the club around your spine. So breakdowns, that's a good one to eliminate breakdowns. And I don't know, those are the first 4 or 5 that I'm rattling off here that stick out to me the most, but there's many more, many more.
You like the lining the tees up, or with golf balls and just walking and continuously hitting, and
love that. A lot of people can't do it.
Coordination, that seems
so
easy,
many
but
people
can't do it.
No, it takes coordination and timing and rhythm and
footwork.
If you can get somebody to do that drill successfully, they should become a better player for sure. And, just getting awareness of where the bottom of the swing is. I'm a big fan of painting a line or putting some tees down to give people a gate of figuring out where their divot is and if it's happening in the right place, and just figuring out how to make the club bottom out in the same place every single time, or close to every single time, or actually bottoming out the right amount. And so just getting that awareness again of where they are in space, the fact that they obviously need to shift over before they start to rotate, and giving the feeling of letting the body lead the arms down to a point are all really, really good. Cues, step and swing. Those are all the basic ones. I mean, these are all in the book, and I do my million Instagram tips, and I do versions of these things.
We're going to get to
every
your
week.
Instagram. It's coming.
Oh boy.
What?
Hopefully that helps.
What kind of technology are you using? I know you're using some radar and.
We have TrackMan at the club, we are in the process. Hopefully, within this next year, we'll have a learning center building delivered and constructed. So
I was going to ask you that because I know that was in the plans.
Yeah, it's been in the plans for a long time.
That's something that happens at Carmel.
Yeah, I'm at this facility, Creighton Farms, which is wonderful, and it's a beautiful private club, Jack Nicklaus signature course, and he's actually coming our way in a couple of weeks. He comes once a year.
Oh, nice.
So, it's a great property, and even pre-Creighton Farms, I've been trying to build a building for a long time, and it hasn't worked out, different properties. So they are a couple years into making this happen, and the big trucks are on their way apparently in the next few weeks. So maybe we'll see some dirt move, and I'll have a building sometime in 2020. That would be nice.
That's awesome.
So it's coming, but it's still not there. And in the meantime, we do have one TrackMan that I've had for my time there, and use that all the time. I don't always use it in every lesson, and I sometimes have it running and don't use it with the student. I just look at it. Some guys really want to know the numbers, and so we use it more. Just depends on who's in front of me. So it's not an absolute, but I do like having it there, and it gives me a framework sometimes for certain people to say, okay, here's your starting point, and this is what needs to change. This is the red flag, and why, and how that relates to your swing and this drill that we're doing. And so it gives people perspective more than anything else. It's not about pleasing the TrackMan. It's about having a baseline and then creating a path for movement of the needle one way or the other on whatever number that you're looking at. Path, whatever, swing path, face, angle of attack, whatever, right? So there's that. And then, I get just a regular camera on my iPad or iPhone out, and I do a ton of easy, quick video analysis right there on the spot in front of people. Nothing crazy. It's not rocket science. It's I'm not even gonna say that I'm really good about always having the perfect camera angle. I mean, I know enough that I should have mounted cameras in certain spots the reality is I teach outdoors, and when the wind is blowing and I'm teaching off a grass tee and the guy is moving his ball position around every fifth or sixth swing, it's just not realistic. So, I go with the flow.
It is, right?
Video,
that's all it
video,
is.
Video is for me giving, again, somebody a view of what is the shape of your golf swing? What's happening? Where are the breakdowns? Do you see your balance? Do you see what you look like through the swing? I do look at positions and I draw lines, but I don't ever bring up a tour pro. I can honestly say I think it's been 8 years since I've pulled up a tour pro swing.
Yeah.
I compare
That's
people
changed a
against
lot
themselves.
lately. Yeah, I used to do
I
that
compare
a lot when we
I
used to
compare
use
people.
V1.
I take a swing, early on in the beginning of a lesson, and I take video constantly throughout a lesson, and sometimes I show them, sometimes I don't. I usually do a little recap that I send to students after a lesson, and they love it. They just love it. I use Coach Now, which I load all their videos onto, and I
great.
send stuff to them, and I mean, people just always remark they just love the follow-up, and they just watch over and over again the stuff that I send to them to practice off of. And if they haven't come for a lesson in a while, sometimes they get a note, hey, I'm so glad, those videos are still up. I just watched that lesson again we had 4 months ago, and it helped me this weekend. I'm like, okay, awesome, great.
Come on out.
Awesome. Come out and see me. It'll get even better. But
Exactly.
they love it. And so, it's just the good old basic. And I had a body track mat for a while that I don't use anymore because, again, being outside, there's just, I can only set up so much. I got to put up a picture soon on Instagram. I mean, my teaching bag is kind of getting ridiculous. It's like call it my Mary Poppins bag. It's just so chock full of all kinds of training aids and stuff that, do I use half of them every day? No, I don't even know if I use half of them once a year. But it's with me. I know I have it.
Yeah.
And it's there, and I'll use my 4 or 5 kind of regular things. Like I use an orange whip a lot. I use rope. I use sticks and tees and basic stuff, baby powder. And I have a lot of putting training aids in there, my aim point stuff, my levels and all of that, string line, So for full swing, it's not that complicated, and I would love to say that I have more technology than that, but I don't use that much stuff, and I'd love to think that when I have a building and it's all there in front of me, that I can get my hands more on some biofeedback, and I actually do own a 4D motion system, and I don't like using it outside. I'd rather do that indoors in the winter when I have more time to break down somebody's swing in that way. I'm much more efficient and more fluid in my teaching when I'm not bound up by technology. I think I give a better lesson, at least at this point in time, because I'm not as comfortable with all that setup in a 1 hour lesson. Or if I have more time with somebody, I could venture into strapping on sensors and all that stuff. But I stay away from it. I don't think it has to be that complicated. I'm not going to say I won't use it in the future. I just have not had regular access to it, so I'm much more comfortable doing what I'm doing, how I'm doing it. Yeah.
Is it true that when you came to Creighton Farms that you created that position? Because that could be talk a little bit about that. I think that's helpful for. I know back in my younger days, director of instructions were not really there. So it was difficult for you just to show up to a club and say, hey, you need a full-time teaching pro. How did that process look, and how did you get them to hire you in that way? I think that'd be really helpful for listeners.
Sure. So the club at the time was about 8-9 years old, and so fairly new facility. And when they first opened up, 2008, there was some economic issues in the country. So they kind of came out as a high-end private club, unfortunately, at a bad time in the economy. And even our area, which is fairly insulated and demographically and with government and military workers and stuff, it just had to evolve to stay alive. So Southward Development came in and kept it as a high-end private club, but they got away from sort of that corporate culture, which it was going to be. They wanted it to be a sort of another RTJ or another Caves Valley, and it's really become a family club. And there's a high-level service. It's a beautiful property. It's maintained very, very well. We have on-site lodging. We have 9 guest rooms upstairs that are, 5-star level rooms, and it's great chef and cuisine and all of this is really, really wonderful. So it's the high-end club, but it's much more family-oriented in the activities that go on. We have all the amenities are built out now, pool and fitness and again, eventually learning center. So it's evolved quite a bit. So when I approached the club in 2015, they were at a point in their development where they were really driving membership hard, and they had added quite a few up to that point, but they were big enough to warrant a director of instruction or a full-time instructor there, where up to that point they really probably couldn't support somebody full-time. So it was sort of the perfect timing in that they were ready to bring someone on to teach because it was too much for the staff that was there, like the head pro and the couple of assistants really didn't have the extra time to do the teaching that was demanded. But it was almost not busy enough for the traffic to come exclusively from just the club membership. And being a local area pro with a good reputation and a large following, I came in and my request was that they would allow me to bring in outside guests. And so I was able to start there and, of course, teach all the members that were interested in lessons and develop programming for the kids and everything that were coming up through the club and some of the ladies, and grow the programming for women members and start to run some golf schools, things that just had never been done up to that point.
Right.
And also continued to work with my students that I've had in the area for many, many years. So it was great, and it's helped the club in both ways. It's given the club a lot of exposure that I'm there, and great visibility for outside people to come in and check out the club and consider it as a place that they might want to join. So it's been a win-win for everybody involved, and the general manager that gave me the opportunity was great to do so, and I'm thankful to him and to Southward Development, which is the ownership group, to bring me on and have the vision and the support to let me do my thing, and now continue to support with the plans for this learning center. So I think it's going to be a great relationship, and it'll continue to evolve and grow as the years go on, and the club is still growing. They still are adding memberships.
That's good.
So they're not quite full yet. Yeah, it's
healthy.
a good time to be there. It's a good, healthy environment. Everything is growing. The area and the economy, everything in our area is, really pretty good. And so I'm thankful to be there.
Yeah, you got to build that reputation first. That's the key element that you shared there, and that way you've got some leverage, and obviously have something to bring to the table that's going to create value for that club and for their members. And obviously you've done that, which is cool. Yeah,
it was an easy fit. I had a nice easy commute. There was a lot of stability in terms of what I could bring to the table for them. I wasn't a fly by night person, and I had a good reputation in the area. So I think all of that helped. And I asked for the sale, meaning I pitched it, right? They didn't call me. I had to go in and ask for it, and I had a few members that were at the club that vouched for me as well. That helped.
I was going to say, did you have somebody on the membership that already knew who you were? I'm sure. And
I
that
did.
helps a lot, right?
A couple very influential members that spoke highly for me on my behalf. That was great. They gave testimonials, as well as the head professional at the time was somebody that I knew, and so he also vouched for me. So it doesn't hurt to network in any environment, and
That's right.
you have to call those favors in when you need them, and I did, and I worked out very, very nicely. So.
Well, that leads us into your new social awareness that you've started here in the last year or so with your Instagram post. Like, I think you have one of the most entertaining and creative Instagram accounts in golf now.
Thank you.
I mean,
thank you.
Yeah, for sure. And we've talked about it, and we spent some time at the Teaching and Coaching Summit, and in our board moments, we were thinking up new ideas for you. So share a little bit about how that came about, and then I have some follow-up questions. And because I mean, I'll just sort of paint the picture, but for those of you that don't follow her, which everybody's probably following you, because I know you just hit 10,000 followers. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm right there. I might be just a couple, maybe
so we'll put you over
dozen
the
short,
edge.
but I'm right there.
Hopefully on this podcast, we'll put you over the edge.
Yes, thank you.
But you're doing quick little, really easy to understand golf tips for players with music and a lot of folly, I guess.
I like that. I'll say folly.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
shenanigans, dance moves, funny faces, costumes. What else? I mean, props, whipped cream pies. I don't know.
Top hats.
Karaoke.
Yeah, it's just so funny to watch. I can't wait to see like the next one every couple of days. So how did that start, and like what kind of led you to that inspiration?
Yeah, so I just had not paid any attention to Instagram over the years. Just life gets busy, and I would make some YouTube videos once in a while when I felt the urge to do so and I had extra time, but I wanted to really put forth a consistent effort to do a lot more content, and especially with the book being behind me, I felt like I had some extra time to instead of sit and write blog posts, I said, I'd really just got to do more videos. I'm not comfortable in front of the camera. I've got a lot of good ideas. Let's see if I can get creative. And so I started out with a few videos that were nonverbal, and I just added music, and I really filmed them kind of on a whim. It was a windy day at Creighton, and it was the fall last year, and I had a little more quiet time between lessons, wasn't as busy, so I get out there and I just filmed a bunch of shots and figured I could make a montage or something and just throw it out there and see how it was responded to. And I did a few of those, and the response was good, and I was encouraged, and I started really paying attention to what some other teachers were doing. And I said, I can do this, I can do better, I can do different. And so I just started brainstorming some different ideas, and as the weather got colder, I teach indoors at a studio, but I also have a little net area set down in my basement, and kids are off to school, and I would go down in the mornings and I would film different tips and come up with some different ideas. And I don't know, it was like this creative juices just opens up, and I just wrote down this whole list of ideas. I just kept thinking every day of new stuff, of different
That's what I was going to ask you,
make.
What's the process look like? Are you creating lists? I do that when I do my videos for like my app and stuff. It's like you got to be sort of organized, and when it hits you, you got to write it down or you're going to forget it.
I literally have
something hits you probably during a lesson maybe, and you're like, okay.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I think, the way I have a notes page in my phone, and it is full of dozens and dozens of ideas that I haven't filmed yet. And I'll be driving and I'll hear a song and I'm like, oh, this would make a great video. And I could do this lyric. Yeah, because the songs just match so well to the tips, which is incredible. Thank you. And I'm a lot of times I'm in a lesson, especially, coming into the season, as I got out there and was teaching more and more, because of course I'm teaching through the winter, and I did get some inspiration through the winter from indoor lessons, but especially in the spring where I'm like, all right, now I got to hit the ring running. I got outdoor scenery. I can do all these different things. And I would just say something in the middle of a lesson, and the way I said it, I'm like, that was really good. And I just literally whip out my phone and open the notes page and just write down a quick thought of how I said something that rhymed, or I don't know, however I said it in the lesson, and or some drill that I totally forgot about that I hadn't done in a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll just do this drill next week, or whatever, just different thoughts that come up in a lesson, different faults and fixes. And as I come across it in front of me, I write it down and come up with a way of trying to do it a little more creatively. I mean, some are cut and dry because I don't have a lot of time, especially this time of year, to get as creative as I would like. But I don't know. I can't describe it. It just hits me. I literally, as Pia and Lynn were standing on stage and you're sitting next to me, and I, of course, I've read all their books, and, they always talk about the think box, play box. Did I not turn to you and say, yes. Boxes? Yeah. I'm going to jump out of boxes and do think box and play box. So I love taking things literally. That's probably my favorite. And so when I can come up with a way of doing something funny in any way, I try to jump on it. And
the Caddyshack one, I think, is probably my favorite. Or it's one of my favorites.
So I had the idea of I have always said to students when I talk about alignment, aiming your golf club is like aiming a gun, except your eyes are not on the barrel. And I always sort of, do the analogy. So I love analogies. So I'm like, why don't I just do a video like with a gun and actually show it? So then my son's got, no joke, 100 Nerf guns. So I fish through the closet downstairs and I get one that looks like it'll work, and I load it up, and I said, okay, well, so how could I, do this more? And I start thinking, what am I shooting at? Am I shooting at the driving range? So I'm shooting, of course, at a gopher, that would be kind of funny. So then my brain goes to Caddyshack, and I said, okay, I can maybe splice in Carl Spackler doing something.
That was classic.
So I start splicing in videos, and, hopefully I don't get in trouble, get a copyright lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, cease and desist. Okay, fine, you caught me. Yeah. But no, I'm splicing in YouTube videos of this stuff, and before you know it, I've come up with in my head a storyboard. I mean, I'm not writing out the whole thing, but I like see how I want the video to play out.
They're mini movies, is what they are. I mean, it's so cool. Because how much time do you have? Instagram only gives you.
It gives you a minute,
right?
Which is really tricky. And a few of the videos I've done, I've really wanted to go longer. I did a Jedi Star Wars one, and I think I couldn't get that one under a minute.
Yeah, that was a funny one.
So I found another way of posting it, But anyway, I've done some fun. So these different things definitely inspire me, and I try to make them funny. I'm not taking myself seriously at all. Hopefully people understand that. Especially when I try to sing. I don't know, the ball drop.
Yeah. That was my probably second favorite, or maybe my favorite.
Good.
The dancing and all that. Which one was your favorite one to do?
No Diggity. No Diggity was fun to do.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did a bunch of short game shots, showing using the bounce and splashing it out of the trap and stuff, and just doing those lyrics and kind of having like a little bit of sass with the the video and the costume and stuff like that. And when I'm laying in the bunker at the end of the video on a beach towel, and my maintenance superintendent guy is driving by, they don't even know what to think of me.
I was going to say, you have to get some crazy looks from people driving by or members when you're doing the videos.
The Caddyshack one is right on the main road as people come in. I was doing it under the trees on the side of the driving range, and this SUV pulls by. I don't know what member it was, and he literally stopped his car in the main road and like looked over at me, and I had the gun, and I'm standing by the tree with my back to the tree getting ready to film a bit for the video, and I just gave him a wave, and he kind of stopped. He pulled up a little bit, he stopped again. You know what to think of me. I was like, what's this girl doing with a gun filming with a tripod under the tree over there? Like, so funny. So funny when I get caught in the act.
You're filming it yourself, right? Is that, or
I do
you have
everything.
A camera person?
No, I do everything myself. I have a tripod and my iPhone and a little wireless mic sometimes and whatever. I just go out there and do it, and I come up with different camera angles, and I wish I had a full-time camera person. That would be
keep doing it.
Amazing, because you would wait till you see the videos I can make when I have a camera person.
Right. I was gonna say, you're
and
on your way.
multiple cameras running at the same time. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No, it's fun. I definitely have enjoyed the creativity. It's literally become a hobby. Like I do take my downtime away from work, and even though it's work related, it's become just a really fun thing. I enjoy doing it. My husband's like, "You're still working on that video?" I'm like, yeah. Yeah. I just have fun, and I can do it on the fly. I edit everything pretty much right from a couple of apps on my phone. I mean, it's basic stuff. I'm not getting too crazy at this point, but it looks like I am, but I'm not. It's really fun.
It's very well done. I think it's so cool. I mean, I always tell like the young coaches the value also that you get of getting in front of a camera, I think is really helpful, right? I mean, for your communication skills, your just personal development stuff of, being not having that sort of shyness. I mean, have you found, you've never been shy. Okay, I've known you for a while. But for most people, it would probably be very helpful to maybe shoot a video.
Well, it's funny. Yes, I would say that filming in private in my house, like I was able to really come even more out of my shell, and I think that was a good thing. And now that I've done it enough, I'm not I would be comfortable even, being goofy and silly in front of other people if and when the opportunity presents itself with a camera crew and stuff like that. So I think I can do that now more than I would able to do before, because I got more comfortable just doing it in my own way at my own pace, and being silly and kind of letting that guard down.
Sure.
And being me, just being me. And I think that in the golf world, particularly golf, everything's so conservative and buttoned up, and you're trying to just be perfect with the way you say something and try to be the smartest. You're trying to always sound smart. And here I am, doing these silly things and presenting ideas that are legitimate concepts in what you said, in creative but funny ways. Yeah. And I like to call what I'm doing edutainment. So hashtag edutainment, because it's exactly what it is. I'm trying to educate people, but in an entertaining way. And I think that's sort of like I found my style. And so I can just do that now. Yeah. And I don't have to prove anything to anybody. It obviously is catchy, and I'm having fun with it. And at the end of the day, when I'm having fun with it. Like I'm gonna do more because I like to do them.
Yeah.
And so you like it or you don't. Hopefully you like
me
it.
This goofy podcast, as my wife doesn't understand.
Yeah.
I'm not making any money, but I enjoy sharing and talking to people and, talking to my friends. And it just, like I said, when you have a passion to do something, you're not really getting paid for it. That I think it's the right thing to do.
Yes. Yeah. I am not making money directly from these videos, yet I keep doing them. And I'm hoping. Well, it is. It comes around, right? I mean, because Absolutely. It's exposure, and you gain some hype, and you get recognition from people and from now, people in the industry. I mean, yourself here, we're talking because of it, probably. Golf Magazine and a shoot that I recently did at Golf Digest. The phone starts to ring, and hey, we really like what you're doing. Let's do something together. Like that conversation has happened a lot in the last year because I've been putting myself out there more and more. And it's funny because I think a lot of people that don't know me personally or knew me up to this point a year ago as to what I put out online would say I was sort of that sort of stock golf professional. And this has presented a side of me where people feel like they know me better and look at me in a way for who I really am. Like, I can't tell you how many times I get the comment, I had no idea you had that side to you. Like, yeah, right. I didn't know you had that in you, Erika. Even the members at my club who some people that I would say I felt like knew me, they're like, that No Diggity video, like, I didn't know you had that in you. It's like, yeah, awesome. I have fun. So it's been good to share that with the world and for people to see what I have to offer. And so I think it just makes, hopefully, me more desirable to different parts of the industry and then more able to share the message, which is at the end of the day, what I want to share is to help people get better at golf in one way or the other, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, keep doing it, because I think, like you said, you kind of found your niche there, and I think it's cool to see. And like that was my next question: is like, what's the ROI been? And it's like you said, sometimes it's tough to really put your finger on it because it's not a dollar amount. It's like you may get this random lesson. Like, how many times have you had a story where somebody comes to you for a lesson because they saw your videos? Yes, I've had that. Obviously, the members. Definitely. Members. Yeah. It increases, my value and visibility for the membership, but I'd say I had a lot of new traffic this year, so I think I can relate that directly to Instagram. And so can I quantify exactly how many students? No, because a lot of people type in too, they want to know what the top teacher in Virginia is, and they type that into Google, and the Golf Digest lists come up, and I happen to be at the top of the state list. And I would say that, it doesn't hurt to have that visibility online with social. It only backs you up. But at the end of the day, those types of things and all the work that's been done up to this point continues to drive business in a way that I don't have to do a lot of direct marketing. But really what I'm doing now with all these videos is marketing. That's right. Because it helps keep people, remind them that I'm there, I exist, and I'm, telling them to come see me to get help for XYZ reason. So, it's fun, and I definitely think that ROI has been there directly and indirectly. Sure. I'm not cashing in on how many views there are, and I'm not doing YouTube, and I'm not getting ad revenue, and I'm not at that point. And I'm obviously just primarily streaming out stuff on Instagram. So I think that I will evolve
the content and where it's streaming, and we'll see how that goes over the next year or two with how many followers I have and what I can do to potentially monetize the content and how people can access it, because I could certainly get fancier and longer with a lot of these videos to a point where I'm sure people would like to subscribe, but I'll take what I can get right now, and I'm just having fun with it, and whatever happens next will happen when it's meant to happen.
There you go.
So.
All right, so let's get to a couple of fun questions here. A little more personal growth, or however you want to describe them. But you mentioned some books earlier, and we've talked about Ernest Jones. But like, what is a book or books that you've most gifted in your life, and why? Or any books that come to mind that may have had a impact on your life or career? And it doesn't have to be golf. It could be outside of golf, which I kind of enjoy as well.
Outside of golf, it's a great question. I'm such a golf nerd. I always read golf books. The Four Agreements, probably.
Okay.
So Don Miguel Ruiz. Sorry, it's really life lessons. Life lessons to live by. And I would say that's been a big part of trying to get to a balance in my life. And, a couple of the key points are don't make assumptions. You never want to judge people. And so I think that works both ways, right? How you think people are judging you and you don't want to judge them. I think you just have to live your life and you be very non-judgmental. And
until you get to know somebody and do
you never make assumptions. Don't make assumptions.
Yeah, I like that.
Always be true to your word. So say what you mean what you say, kind of thing. And the word is very, very important. And so I take that to heart, of course, every day. And I think the messages in that book are really strong just for living life. So I would say that's probably a pretty influential one. And as a family, we tend to live by those rules as well.
I like it.
So I would say that's probably the main one, at least of the last probably 4 or 5 years, that I've probably revisited and told people to read. And I would say I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person. So, when you're searching for your role in this life and what you can do to help others and things like that, I kind of default more to those types of themes, rules to live by.
Has there been a failure or a roadblock that in your life that set you up for later success? Has there been any stories or any moments in your life that you could share that you could remember, having that, we've all had failures, because like all successful people have dealt with adversity. And I know I've got a few in my life that I can point to. Does anything come to mind?
So I was at a golf course for 6 years and built my business in the public sector a lot. Those years I got a lot of good recognition. I hired staff, and I was trying to do all the right things to become a high volume golf academy. And I wanted to build a facility there, and it didn't work out. I was told no by the people that had come in and bought the course. They didn't want to give me a ground lease. They wouldn't build the building, and I was kind of outgrowing the facility. And I made a decision along with my family that we were going to get involved in another golf course in the area that some local business people had bought, and they made a lot of promises to me. And unfortunately, within 6 months, the whole thing fell apart, didn't work out. And in the middle of that next golf season, I had to relocate my business again. So I, for somebody that always had a good reputation in my area, I had a lot of disruption with location, facility, and then really reassessing what I was going to do next with my business, my teaching business. So forget the actual teaching part. It was the business part of it that was so messed up there for about 6 to 8 months. And I uprooted not only myself and all my equipment and everything twice, but also my staff. And so I just was in a really bad place with not kind of knowing what was going to come next, needing a home. And so it's just that uncertainty will drive you crazy. And so everything kind of played out over the course of that year. A really nice local pro let me finish out the season at his golf course. And then I hit the reset button hard and tried to reevaluate what was important to me moving forward. And that was right before I wrote my book. And it was right before then I moved to Creighton, and I think all those things happened simultaneously. I decided that I wanted to teach golf, I wanted to write my book, and I wanted to spend a little bit more time at home, because all the upheaval with moving the business and trying to do the right thing for the business was really killing my life at home. And so that was a pretty significant part of my journey to get to now Creighton, and to get me through writing the book, and to get to the point where I have this time and desire to do all this other content development. Because had I still been growing my golf academy, I don't think I would have done any of that. And I wanted to do those things, and I wanted to have a better work-life balance. So it's not, sometimes one door closes and another one opens,
Absolutely.
as they say. And so I think that, it was like a blessing in disguise. At the time, I was so upset at how everything happened, because I worked so hard to build my business, and I felt like nothing was going my way for a year. And I hit a bunch of roadblocks in, trying to grow. And I said, maybe this is just not meant to be at this time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to go just kind of teach at a private club where, I know I'll have a nice spot, do my thing for a while. I told the guys that worked for me that, I'm sorry, you're not going to come with me, but I'll help you find your next spot. And everybody was happy. Everybody moved on, and they've grown and developed. And I've kept in touch with all those guys, and they've taken the next steps in their career, and I'm always there to support them. And, it's been great. It's been a great experience to move on and make a decision that ended up working out so well to this point. So yeah, that would probably be the main roadblock that I hit, was more of that. It's like, you try to force things to happen sometimes. And
I was gonna say, what's the learning moment in that? Is it
the learning moment is you can't force it. You just have to sometimes let things happen.
Yeah.
And
create probably, I guess, if you find that, I guess, going through that experience, when you find a decision that comes your way now, will you look at it differently and maybe do more research? Or, how do you think that'll change your mindset?
Yeah, I think
it's always,
right.
There's always something around the
There's
corner.
always the next thing.
Yeah.
I think trusting my gut and what feels right, and then also probably, like you said, part of it is doing more research. Sometimes you got to take a chance. What
Absolutely.
I did,
Yeah,
you miss every shot. You miss every shot you don't take. What I said yes to in moving to the facility when I did, I was going to move on one way or the other, you know? And so, unfortunately that thing didn't work out, but it led to other good things. So you have to take chances, you have to take risks. And if it doesn't work out, there's a reason. I think that's what I learned more so in this example is you try things, and if it doesn't work out, you try something else. And when something works out, you just go on that path then for a while until that doesn't work out. You just go with the flow. Again, I'm riding this wave of where I'm at right now with making videos and having fun and seeing success on Instagram and taking opportunities that come my way because of it. And if there's a point where it goes stale, then it's time to do something else. It's not working. Do something else. So it's okay. It's okay to, and I wouldn't even say it's failing as much as, again, the universe is kind of pushing you. Yeah, the universe is pushing you in a different direction, and you just don't want to fight it. You got to go with it, and things are happening around you for a reason. And if you are true to the energy and inside of you and what your true desires and goals are as a person, and whether that's career or life, kids, family, whatever that is, then I think the good things will happen. And it doesn't always happen overnight. So there's a certain level of patience that
that's good.
Is part of the process. But I think that you have to have faith that, if you're a good person and you do the right thing and you work hard, that it'll all work out okay. And so I'm lucky to have a support system at home, and it's helpful to know that I always have that to fall back on, and so that makes making decisions easier sometimes too. But
yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's
no problem.
That's not easy sometimes.
No.
In the last
this industry is very tough.
I know.
It's tough on
You're right.
It's tough on home life and And so,
There's a reason why the divorce rate is so high in our industry.
Yep. I've walked that fence, and it's hard, and you got to pull through and find what works for you.
That's right. So. Okay. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has improved your life the most?
New belief or habit has improved my life the most.
Yeah, it could be a daily habit, maybe your morning ritual. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say a little quiet meditation in the morning, and feeling gratitude for what I have in my life, like actually recognizing and truly acknowledging and being grateful for what I do have and what I'm blessed with, and just making a point that that's part of my daily message to myself.
Is there do you use like an app, or what type of meditation? That's come up a lot on my podcast. That my friend John Hardesty kind of got me into. I'm a newbie, but using the Waking Up app is what I use.
The Waking Up app.
Yeah. What do you use?
No, I don't use a guided app right now.
So it's just kind of you're just yourself.
Yeah, is it not Mindside? What is the Mind Valley? Mind Valley is a resource that I had spent some time on for a while, and that was definitely, there's some good recorded meditations. I think I did enough of them that I kind of have the flow of it in my head. So when I want to close my eyes, I sort of just go there, and whether that's a quiet few moments in the morning. And meditation is different for everybody. I don't think it has to be so formal. I think it's more that you're trying to quiet your brain to let
I agree.
That creativity flow from the back and organize your thoughts. And sometimes it's amazing, like stuff that pops into my brain, things that I know I needed to do but I didn't write down, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's there. It's like comes back to the front. So it's just a place to let ideas and thoughts and to-do lists flow. I don't know. It just gets me feeling like I'm organized for the day before I start. So that's kind of what I
like it.
I use.
Grateful is a massive word, I think, in my opinion. We all need to be have that state of mindfulness, at least a little bit during our busy day. I think it goes along. It's definitely helped me in my crazy life.
Yep. Yes, for sure. So much going on, to stay organized and to feel like you're more centered with where life is. So,
what purchase of $150 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last year?
Gosh, these are some good questions, Jason. Put me on the spot. $150 or less.
It can be more. I mean, just anything you can think of that.
An air fryer.
Okay. There you go. Well, I was going to ask you earlier about how are your cooking skills, since your dad was an executive chef. Did he pass any of that down? Do you enjoy cooking at all?
I do enjoy cooking.
Are you good?
I come home so late.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're a little
several nights a
different.
week in the summer that I'm lucky to have my husband and or other family members usually take the lead on cooking this time of year, although I did make dinner last night. But
okay.
Yeah, I keep it simple, and I have my sort of stock recipes from him. I make a couple really good, dressings and basic things that he taught me to do, certainly growing up, and just the techniques. I think watching the way he handles food, the way he cuts things, the way he marinates meat, the way he rubs, spices on things, just being hands-on, like not being afraid to get your hands dirty, and how, you handle, even say in baking, just little tidbits of not overworking the dough or the batter, and when you whisk something, just the right way to whisk it and the right way to even stir a spatula in a pan. Like I feel like I know it's a simple thing, but apparently my scrambled eggs are really good. Why? Because it's just the way I saw him do it for so long.
Sure.
is just, I make the fluffiest, creamiest scrambled eggs you'll ever have.
That's awesome.
So it's little things. It's just more technique driven. When I need to really cook something for, guests, or if it's more formal, like I will refer to a recipe book typically, but you know, it's knowing kind of what goes together and knowing that something needs to be seasoned, tasting as you go. I know what good food tastes like. And so going off of the palate that I've developed from his cooking and from eating well and drinking well over the years, I think that says a lot. That kind of guides me to where I think something needs to be when I'm cooking. And I do enjoy it. It's just time consuming.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I cook much more in the winter than I do in the summer.
When we're slower.
Yeah.
What?
But the air fryer was the answer to your question.
Yeah,
and
okay.
the reason is
tell me why.
Because I hadn't had one up to recently, and we took a whim on buying one. We had heard some things about it from some friends, and you know, it's no oil. Throw it in there. It's unbelievable. The kids are, of course, you know, we eat a fair share of French fries and things like that. But to throw some food in there and either fry it or dehydrate it or just crispen it up or warm it up, it's like it's so quick. It's so easy, and it's just so easy to clean, and it's just like a quick, easy kitchen tool that I can't believe we'd never had before. And so that's been a really fun thing. Chicken wings are amazing in there.
Oh, man.
So I used to roast mine. They used to take like over an hour to make.
Oh, geez.
In the oven. So
Yeah.
this is like, you know, 20 minutes. They're ready.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right. What's an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love? I know you've got to have a good answer for this one.
Unusual habit?
Yeah, just something
thing?
that aside from making weird videos, something that we wouldn't know. What would your husband say?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if it's absurd. I don't know. I play the piano. I do pottery. It's not absurd though, but that's something you might not know about me.
Yeah.
Once in a while I'll post that stuff on Instagram, but
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. I do enjoy random artsy craftsy things. Like, you know, we came back from the beach with all these shells, and yeah, I got the hot glue gun out and made a mess of the kitchen counter and made a picture frame with my daughter with, you know, a bunch of shells, and half of them didn't stick on the wall, you know.
Okay.
I guess I like being creative in different ways, and whether that's making something, you know, physically, or playing music or whatever. Anything that's creative, I love doing. So.
What would your kids say about you that there's something that you do that embarrasses them?
I just like to dance.
The dancing.
I dance around the house, and we play music loud, and I make them dance with me.
I love it.
Yeah, dancing probably. Silly dancing. Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
last one, and you're off the hot seat, okay?
All right, okay.
So if you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it to get a message out to billions of people, what would your billboard say and why?
Let it go. It would say let it go. Because I think that, again, people are too serious or too worried about what other people think of them, and they're too tense in life. They try to over control what's happening, and I would say, like, just let it go. Let it go. Let life happen, and enjoy it. Enjoy every moment.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Erika, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah.
Wow. An hour and almost 40 minutes.
I know,
Goodness.
right? It
That
goes
was a
by
long
fast,
conversation.
right? So tell the listeners out there how they can get a hold of you, give them your website, give them your social platforms, and see if we can get you over 10,000 on your Instagram page.
You can find me at erikalarkin.com or atrueswing.com. They both take you to the same place. I am Erika Larkin. PGA is my handle on Twitter and Instagram. And of course, it's Erika with a K, Erika.
Yep, and I'll put it in the intro as well.
Larkin, yeah. So Erika Larkin PGA, and I've got some stuff on YouTube as well. And you can find that, just type in my name on there. I teach at Creighton Farms in Aldie, Virginia, and all my contact info is on my website, as well as booking. Links to buy my book are on my website, as well as available on Amazon. And it is available for e-download, like Kindle version, but I think the imprint version is much, much better.
Awesome.
Kindle's tough. So, but yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and spread the message, and thank you for sharing your time with me and giving me an opportunity to be on your show. This is so
Absolutely.
exciting.
Always. So I look forward to seeing you soon. We don't get to spend enough time together, but I'm sure we'll run into each other at some meeting or seminar, if not if not the PGA show as always. So
I think Pinehurst maybe. I might see you at Pinehurst
the top
in a couple
100.
months.
Yeah, you're going to come down for the top
coming,
100?
Yeah, and I'm coming early to play.
Oh, perfect.
To play with my mom, who's turning 70. See?
Okay.
There you go. She's never played there before. We're gonna share a couple days of golf before we jump into a seminar. So
Awesome. We'll definitely catch up then.
Thanks, Jason.
All
Have
right.
a great fall. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
What's up, everybody? Guru back here again with a couple of things before you jump off. First, big thank you to Erika for coming on the show and sharing her story and incredible knowledge about coaching that I know will help you all become better coaches out there. Make sure to follow Erika on IG and Twitter at Erika Larkin PGA, and check out her website, erikalarkin.com, where you can buy her book, The True Swing. Definitely a must-have for your library. Thank you again for our sponsors, nveedhemp.com. And make sure you use the promo code GURU20 for that 20% lifetime discount. You can follow me on the Twitter or Instagram at GolfGuruTV, as I am putting out a lot of content, especially on my stories on IG. So check those out on the daily to see some behind-the-scenes footage of my teaching and coaching. And also make sure you go to the App Store and download the Golf Guru app. I appreciate it. Also check out my website at golfgurutv.net, where you can find more videos, articles, and loads of information on my teaching and coaching. If you have any questions or comments about the show, you can email the show at golfgurushow@gmail.com or hit me up on the DM. This show and all episodes of the Golf Guru Show were produced by myself, Jason Sutton. Music is by Zach Mullet, aka Cutta Beats. Leave me an iTunes review or a rating, and don't forget to subscribe. That way you catch all the new episodes of the Golf Guru Show as they come out, as I've got loads of great guests in the pipeline, so stay tuned for that. And as I always leave you with the infamous Jim Rohn quote, study, practice, teach, and then pass it on. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.